This is Storytime podcast. My name is Rosemary. I'm here with current CEO Chris again. And we
Hello.
were just, hi, we were just having a conversation. And to start this podcast off, we were talking about the lack of abundance in the spiritual community with people that are truly out there putting their heart out to help because the society doesn't fit what we're actually creating here. And your thoughts on
So
that?
yeah. So what we've seen so far is, as an artist would go to venture out online, and mainly, it seems like the AI or whoever the developers, our technology would have us identify as some sort of business, naturally, with the model that's been given. Um, so as we go to venture out online, we run into that ad wall,
Mm-hmm.
in accordance with that same familiar pyramid scheme that we've seen, the all-seeing eye.
Yes.
Um, and what we've seen so far in even the internet realms and meta realms is very similar to the physical realms, where larger corporations and people who are able to pay those costs get the views, and they get their intentions, boosted and put through into other, viewers' perceptions. And so a lot of the honest artists and energy workers I see out here, um, we end up getting cycled back toward one another. The AI funnels us back to one another, where we're basically a lot of times speaking to each other. We do find each other, but it is interesting because we do see much of the spiritual community. Some of these things do present from a place of abundance, and
Yes.
it's not typical for what most of the world sees. And as you say, when you see beyond the event horizon, and when you do attain that knowledge, you know how frivolous and what a waste of time going for the gains, and how much our progress is stunted by these motivations.
Yeah. We're here for spiritual growth. So in my opinion, in my sight that I've seen, spiritual growth, which would equate to when you look at the materials in the world and they don't work for you, the system doesn't work for helping to grow spiritually. And again, you don't carry that with you even in death. You don't carry that over. You don't carry any of that abundance with you. What you carry is what did you grow spiritually in, what knowledge you obtained, but also how many people you've helped, that karmic law that goes through the law of cause and effect. That is actually what carries over more. So I get what you're saying. Like it does funnel us together. And it is what I've been doing here in the Discord when I did get, been advertising to get people in here and in a way to just connect with people, because I believe that in this time we have little pockets of communities everywhere of light workers, and the real light workers that are, like you said, I see them. It's almost a struggle to just maintain a lifestyle, but they're doing it in the way that their soul is speaking.
Right. And much of our true work is not to just cycle love through love. Like, we are all on a familiar frequency. A lot of our true work here, it seems, is to vector upon fear with that love, inundate and subvert non-typical realms. I guess. I mean, I hate to use that phrasing, but truly, that light, the love is more clever than any notion of schemery.
Yes.
It truly is. I've been working construction all week myself, so that's been interesting. You've heard me speak on, like, my motivations towards some of the technological realms and other things I'm interested in, music and sciences.
Yeah.
It's interesting that I get guided back toward just a simple sense of work, and having to trust the bigger plan, that even if it's manifesting a little strange, like perhaps I just have some triggers toward people who do have wealth still, because of the way the elites have manifested in the past. And are we expected to trust the plan that those who would manifest as elites presently and into the future would be having these Gnostic motivations and having the aligned intentions? It is difficult. I do feel like our intuitive empaths are checksums and filters for these types of truths, because we don't just accept the words. We perceive energies, and we think abstractly, and we reason beyond the box, if you will.
Yes. Well, not limiting yourself to a box. And one that I see is
Right.
in society, well, in the elite society, is that the more that they could have people on their narrative, and if you look at the narrative of an elite society, it basically creates people to go to that 9 to 5 job and to generate that income money for a select few of people, instead
Mhm.
of releasing their true enlightenment, their true spiritual purpose, their potential as a human being. It is more on this, hey, get on this narrative of the consumerism, the rat race.
And we get those limitations we fight for, and this is what I mean about stunting our technology and our progress. Some people, I guess, don't think as abstractly and they don't dream as readily, but I feel like they can be activated pretty easily sometimes. But if imagine, if you will, if we would want to set up with God in alignment with Source, a more dignified sense of purpose for ourselves as we explore the galaxy, what energies would we want to resist us? Simple money magics and silly motivations and imaginations. If we would go to seek cosmic forces and work with our planet, our thinking needs to be so much bigger and so much better than it has been, in that 9 to 5 rat race since it has been brutal. It creates all this separation, and
Yes.
we have such an infinite potential given in each soul out here. It's crazy to think that we wouldn't value each one. It's so hard to tell who's going to just shine sometimes.
Yes. Yes. And it is a lot of the, okay, yeah, you were touching on, like, okay, trusting the plan, the divine plan. So we are making like these steps, like, again, ladder steps. And some of us are taking the steps to get out of that rat race, to be more aligned spiritually. But like you were talking about, it's like it is a separation. We are basically, feels like sometimes, I'm going to say, it feels like we're in two separate worlds. We're in the world of that is still kind of the old world, go to work mentality. You have to have this big house, you have to have a car to be successful mentality, and people are living in that fear. And then you have the people, again, like light workers, that are waking people up to, okay, you're creating yourself, you create with your thoughts, what you put your focus on, and manifesting home. I say home here, which is basically what would be on the other side of this event horizon. it We're working towards that. So it's not like we just sit back and wait for it to happen. I feel like a little bit more action or steps taken each day to do this together, and it is a together process, I feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's as I've been noticing us getting funneled together online, and us basically holding conversations with ourselves, or honing our skills, maybe getting our wordings and using, sharpening our tools, if you will. I feel like a lot of this past couple of years of that online has been for the purpose of maybe getting back out in our local communities and saying these very same things to people who don't hear these phrasings, who don't, because we don't even often know, as we would go to intend to, like, maybe share something, it could just be one little word that sticks with them. It could be some simple vibratory distortion. Vibration is, the laws: divine oneness, transmutation
Yes.
of energy and relativity and gender, cause and effect, rhythm, polarity, vibration, correspondence, um, principle of mentalism, the mental universe. As we go to connect, even if for the briefest of moments, you two totally juxtaposed souls might align in frequency for a moment, there could be some level of cosmic healing and, like, guidance occurring it's hard to foresee. That's the mystery. We can know so much, but that's where we just have to defer to the mystery.
Yeah. It's and I do believe, because again, we're all connected to God's source. We all have those tethers between us. It's it's having that connection to heal, but then realizing how much do we heal together, because again, it's, we're all observing something, we're all observing this life, and each of us has our own perspective on it because we had our own past to get here. And then observing this said event horizon, what's on the other side, the other end of the veil, what we call the apocalypse is just the unveiling. And you have that
Yeah.
people, depending on what side they look at, what side they're in, they're going to see it as either destructive because it's destructive in their way of life if they choose to be in this, that magic money, that type of mentality that society has. They're going to see that as
Yeah.
destruction. But yet you have,
Mhm.
when you, I mean, you can see it in Revelations, and you read the other side of Revelations, you have the people going, okay, holy, holy, like God has come, the saviors. At the same time, we're also building that as well. I mean, how much of it is, like we were saying, we're here to help build it. We're here to help to wake people up so they don't experience that destructive side. But more of us that come together, it's classic, like observing, quantum observance. The more that we're observing a particular particle in space from different perspectives, the more that particle is clearer, the more that we understand exactly what we're looking at.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, that was interesting. I shared that one image. It's funny how the images pop out on the internet instantly. Though you were like, "Oh, that's a neural network," the God. You didn't use the phrase Godhead. That's an older term that I've kind of started using again. But yeah, we can see the things in the celestial sense mimicking neural pathways. We see from the atomic scale up to the galactic scale similar movements and styles, and we've spent too long separating these sciences out from divine will, from God, from source.
Mm-hmm.
What end? What has that done for us to keep separating it out? So silly.
Yeah, yes.
um
In a way, it's kind of what it's kind of what I've done, as a child growing up, and I'm sure other people were, but I was, silenced to not say that, hey, these are related. Science is related to religion. All the religions are related to all the other religions, and they're still related to science. And like, you can actually, it's all relative, hence relatively speaking. Um, they're related to each other, and to see
they are.
the macro micro and see how all of that is related, as above so below, all of it is in a way related. And once you start seeing those relationships and you're able to read it, and even the computer realm, we have computers that you can use to explain your organic body, but you use that also to explain a celestial computer. It's a
Well,
celestial
and
computer.
here's an being as I've had such a busy week, I've been able to get up and do my little yoga and qigong for work, but I haven't had a chance to meditate as much.
Mm-hmm.
I did get a brief little meditation earlier this morning, which was kind of nice because for a couple of years I've seen the imagery on like, a pinprick of light in the center of a black hole, and even the spaghettification there too, and even like many sort of angelic nodes which would maybe surround it, many other amorphous shapes, and so many other forms. Kind of hard to describe unless you've just kind of seen this stuff.
Yes, I do have seen it.
You know, right?
Yes.
So it was interesting because we talk about black holes being at the center of galaxies and things, and we remember, hey, Chris Cornell, who's not with us anymore, well,
Yes.
had that song Black Hole Sun.
Black hole
And
sun.
right, so when we look at physics and the slit experiment and how light travels through even slits that are physical, like how must it travel between atoms? And even, okay, so say as we like observe, and this is just hypothetical, just a thought experiment for fun-ish. Say as we observe that disk or that sphere there from our perspective, the light which fills that sphere, if it originates from that center, from that black hole in the center, for example, then where in the cosmos does that portion of that light come from? Where had it just been, through which, slits, if you will, in the experiments, which portals? And that just kind of harkens to the nature of neural pathways and multiversal potentials, and what light can really do. That's just the physics of it. That's just me saying glory to God, because it's everywhere. I mean, as I look out, it's just bright light fills everything. It fills my photoreceptive eyes to even see anything.
Yeah, We were made to
pretty,
observe that. It's
yeah,
this point of where people say
it's
evolution.
reflecting.
We've evolved to be able to observe it in a way, but also people are, people always go with just the physical, your physical body avatar, your eyes. But then when you go through the spiritual realm, you're able to what people call
Mm-hmm.
astral, to see it from, and then
Mm-hmm.
as soon as you start connecting, like you were talking about, when we connect with other people and go, yeah, I've seen that in astral, I've seen that in meditation, then you start going, okay,
It's
this is
crazy.
real. It is, the astral is real. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
imagination, where some people say it's an act of imagination. It's not. If people are,
And see,
yeah.
when I see some of the people currently when I see some of the entities currently manifesting as elite in a sense, but also spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
they don't typically refer to these things in the same ways. There's a lot of talks of channeling and all kinds of other things. Now, like I said, I don't wish to denounce, because if we set up some sense of duality, I get where that's a bridge, but I feel like a lot of us are still as we would seek our planetary ascension and gnosis and help guide people spiritually. We want to be done with that duality completely. We want to really find a united front,
Yes.
I feel like, out here.
And
Um,
that does go back to what you're talking about, the black hole and the point in the portal in the white hole, the portal there. Um,
mm,
Whereas, I mean, like, okay, we know a white hole resonates everything out. Nothing can get into affect it. That would, in a sense, describe the Big Bang. Um, and then you have black holes that suck everything in, apparently, that nothing escapes it. Nothing escapes a black hole. Whereas, where does the black hole go? Does it go out to another
well,
white
I've
hole?
I've got an interesting notion. Our physics suggests that. I wrote a song a couple years back, just proposing the physics on, if there's a black suction, the opposite would be like white protrusion. And I
Yes.
don't mean to what I mean to say is like tree of life. The entire tree of life illuminated is often represented as white light,
Mm-hmm.
white light. And, you know, in a silly sense, if one were to imagine that a planetary body ought to come up for harvest, would it stave off a black hole with enough protrusive white light force? Would it impress its sun? Would it, what are the potentials in such an energy? Especially in a planetary body, in a galactic body, we don't even know, because we're not even talking about that stuff hardly.
No, right. Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
we would nearly want the black hole to suck us out of existence, which is the same thing as we have seen with many a doomsday theory that have popped up since Revelation, whether it's zombie apocalypse, whether it's cataclysm by meteor and stuff. I mean, do we not see the way that the solar system works, and how things get filtered out, and divine will of oh, I'm going to put this element over here. I don't even see it all, but I see the beauty in it. How things don't have to crystallize into one form. They could be separate, and the knowledge of the universe is still, you know what I mean, ever present. Now, we might be able to go examine it within an individual mind, or say that this crystal is dense universal knowledge. And that's all glory to God. It's amazing stuff. Yeah, that universal knowledge, we, I'm not trying to, obviously, I feel like, coming from my place of impoverishment, I realize it's probably easier to say this. No, it's not. I can't even get the words out right. But I feel like
I think I feel,
many of
I think I understand what you're feeling, is that with all the resources that we do have, and the people that have, well, more collection of funds, why not fuel that towards studying that, but also preserving what we have here? A lot of it, I feel like we kind of pillage Earth a little too much. I mean, you're living
yes,
on it instead of living symbiotically. We came from here at the same. We come from Earth. Spiritually wise, we come from different places, but our bodies come from this Earth. It's tuned to this Earth. It's in tune frequency wise. Our spirit's in tuned with Source frequency wise as well. especially in alignment. And to destroy what you live on leaves you with nothing for your footing. It leaves you with nothing to balance. And there is that it's like a balance between Earth, Gaia. That's a cosmic balance even in people. How many people are imbalanced in themselves? We see it with the amount of foods out there, with the chemicals in it, and I get it with not a lot
Yeah.
of funding. Some people are left with eating not so great food.
Right. Literally, I have such an abundance of food, but then no way to just exist freely. I can't just like exist somewhere, or they'd want to like say, "Oh, you should go exist in jail now," or like out in will. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, I do.
That's basically what it amounts to.
Yeah.
It's it's weird, but in America, I know we have food. Like we have a lot of resources for getting food around. I feel like it's interesting.
Well, you do, and then there's the people talking about the food shortages as well. And look, honestly, look at the again, it's the changes. As we change as a collective, especially spiritually wise, people have talked about Earth changes or Gaia changes. Well, we do. We have the heartbeat of Earth, which is Schumann Resonance, and we are connected to that. How much, even as a collective, since we're kind of going through this split, does it affect the Schumann resonance on a Gaia scale, on a world scale? Our
Yeah.
energy emotions go out and affect other people, but also affect our environment. I mean, it's vibrations. Imagine a vibrating earth, vibrating trees, vibrating molecules in grass. I mean, sure you've heard of the experiment when somebody, speaks to a plant, it grows great, and they speak in a nice way. And if
Hmm.
somebody is speaking negatively to it, it doesn't quite grow. Same thing with water.
Yeah.
So,
And they've barely even started really testing that stuff. I mean, we have so much evidence as far as the science is concerned to actually start pursuing these things. It's weird because it feels like in our country in America to try to like recommend these things, we would get certainly labeled as some extremist. There's not been a gentle means until I guess more. We've been trying. I feel like um, to delicately guide. It's interesting, a planetary thing going on, and some of the other energies that manifest as like completely conspiracy minded and want to burn everything down, and then some energies manifest as elites. Um, I'm not trying to say that any of these are, like I said, good or bad or anything. There's obviously an ascension in our consciousness occurring across
yes.
all these, the full gamut, the full spectrum of energies. What I've come to know is true in a lot of this is that intuition and empathy as far as being a guide. Because you just got to always touch back with your source connection. There's so many variables that one could take in from a person.
Yeah, it's well, okay, so this is where I mean it's love and light, and I've been saying love and light them up because it's let's touch as many to light up those dark spaces. And if somebody's in a dark space, why? Again, the people are manifesting in their mind their own hell a lot. They're
Right.
they're doing that where you're manifesting in a negative space. If you're manifesting something negative, you're manifesting your own hell. Um, and
It happens to the best of us.
yes, because we get stuck in our traumas and our emotions and what did happen. And when you're shown a truth and you go, I didn't have to act that way, react that way in a negative way, it is because of what we grew up in, that survival mode of the what was again generational people, generationals, and we're breaking that paradigm, putting that fear on you. You again have to get a job, you have to work, you have to get money, you have all of that conditions. That breaks the unconditional love part, which is source when you go back and touch your roots. So that love part, it's like, where do we when do you get to that actual unconditional part with the amount of
Yeah.
conditions put onto you? And again, we are living, we do have our bodies have basic needs: water and food,
Yeah.
shelter, not be exposed to elements in a way. But when does when do we get to that really true unconditional part? And then those basic necessities, or those basic needs that the body is required to, when we work as a collective, when we work as communities and bring all these communities together and say, okay, you have a community here where you're farming and you're producing organic food, and to teach the people or bridge the people who are maybe in a community somewhere else. Maybe you're in Australia and somebody's in Japan. When you bridge those communities together, it actually creates this, okay, more people, more, like you said, gnosis, more people now begin to understand. And it's
And
not,
sometimes you have to be so patient. We're
yes,
not, I dare say the word allowed anymore to just go be some like dictatorial force or whatever that's going to go like, it is so difficult. Even like you said, you can go connect with an Australian, some Australians or entities from Australia or Japan or these other areas, and maybe once in a while you'll find like an energy out of the UK or here or there anywhere. And then we've got to trust that the sprinkling of the spirit, is going. It's tough because we see past that event horizon, and yet we are present now, and none of us get to dictate the time frame or the plan.
right.
And we all know like we're just dust too, and our time's going to end one day or another for each little individual body.
Well, it also, I believe that's where the event horizon comes in, and because as light beings and as spiritual beings inside our bodies, this, when you achieve this gnosis, you can actually, when you get to that point, you can actually carry it into the next body in a way, so you actually don't die. This is reaching a point of immortality in a sense.
Indeed.
So when people say we die, it's like, if I think that's even another that's another fear-based thing that I've come across is, and it does
Yep.
go with the song. It's when you're too scared, when you're so afraid of dying, you're just too scared to live. People are so afraid to die. I mean, even with the medical system,
But
you're so
right.
afraid to that you just stop living. You just listen to what's being told to you instead of, wait a second, if I have cancer and I know, and somebody told me I have cancer and I'm going to die 3 days from now, what am I going to do in those 3 days but live? Why was I not doing it
But we're
before?
not. A lot of people aren't associating the truth from the Bible, wherein for you to seek money before the living God is a death. That is a death as it's defined in the Bible. To be living in death or whatever is to be seeking those things. Like you've been saying, the Babylonian money magic system. Oftentimes I do see that unconditional love you speak on. And you often see it in the forms of sacrifice. You want this, and then you get funneled back down into like, in my circumstance, like I don't own where I live. It's very humble. It's fallen apart. I'm actually working on the apartment complex just to meet code enforcement. It's nothing I'm going to take with me or hold on to. I'm just going to maybe leave it better when I leave than I found it. Um, I didn't want to do that work. I wanted to be on the phone and make money, and technological things. But, um, yeah, it'd be too easy for me to just go like be off in nature with nature all day.
Yeah, and then what?
Getting,
I mean, it does feed you, your soul. But then, as we were talking about, it's like it's. I noticed that it's not just a solo mission, because if you
so
think,
complex.
because if you, it's, I mean, it is solo in the way it's your journey, but in a mission in a way
Yeah.
of where it collapsing into this one. We are. I mean, a lot of people have seen it in community, spiritual community. We are collapsing into that one timeline, that event horizon, that one moment that would require or have other people involved instead of just one person. That would be,
Yep.
you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, it's easy for even myself to, I technically don't exist in a system. I'm not in a medical system. I haven't paid tax. I'm living kind of just day to day, to just take a backpack and be gone and say, okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to do a podcast. I'm not going to talk to you guys. I'm not going to, it would be so easy to do that. But then I'm like, but that,
Yeah.
it didn't resonate in my
We
soul.
saw
It
that
just
in the
doesn't.
Bible.
Yeah.
We saw men getting quote unquote called to the wilderness in the Bible. Like that's thousands of years old. That tendency in our being.
But
We need each other.
yes, it didn't equate in my soul. It just didn't work for me. I was like, no, no, you know what I mean? And in a way, I am isolated. I'm in a house that I don't, a lot of the people in the area are not awakened. I've done what I could to help. They're
Yeah.
slowly getting there, but to talk to somebody and continue to keep, like, to keep on it, it's a lot. It is an energy drain at times, instead of finding the
What's
people
been
to do this together
what's
and actually light it.
what's been, and to really maybe bring some of this full circle, is we saw the Galactic Federation. A lot of our and a lot of our notions present timelines for the end of 2024 and 2025 and stuff. Um, what we've seen from the spiritual communities, namely the elite spiritual communities, if that's the term we're going to use, maybe those manifesting as elite, is gathering up our types of souls, right? Black sheep, loners, self-sacrificing, unconditional lovers. I do feel the cosmic joke there in that none of us have the sidal notions. We don't drink the cider, so we're not homicidal and suicidal,
Yes.
patricidal or matricidal, right? So now these psychologies that had been, party to these behaviors, like I feel like they're working off of, and I don't want to even say they, but yeah, working off of an old psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Where that's going to be effective. And I do feel, because I get worried about, okay, 2025, I'm good with, like, come what may, spirit, solid. I do worry about, I see the potential in the narrative that all these souls would be gathered up for, like, what amounts to cult tactics, you know what I mean? And then nothing happens. All these people are like, either, I see many who, like, want to go home. And like you said, Earth is our home. This is our genetic base. Like, this is our DNA here, and our vibration is here technically. Now, we often do feel alienated. We often all feel that imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we feel the call to go to the wilderness and even try to find home with Earth in that sense. Always this home, which can be found at the 0 point or literally anywhere.
Yes, it's inside you.
Right. Yes, there's nowhere to go, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I have noticed in some of the Schumann groups, and then, like, the other groups, the comments of people that longing to go home, which is just like, looking for heaven elsewhere. Like, oh, here's the key to the kingdom and how to buy it. Like, no, guys, that's not how it works.
Right, it's inside. Like, home is where the heart is, so it's inside of you.
Amen.
It's
Yep.
inside, and we bring it. Because people see the event horizon, they go, "I want to go there," and thinking, because it's, some people see it fantastical, and they do see that, hey, we're able to go to the Wakanda or Asgardia and create these places and have these, and it's like, but you're creating it here now. It's like you're pulling yourself in that timeline. You're on that rope. So in order to make those steps, what are we doing in the now? Because that's all we truly have.
Right.
We know
And try and
it's there. It's in the future. It's a future event.
yeah.
It's kind of there. It's been written. It's talked about. We see it. We feel it. But what are we doing in the now to get that to be here, pulling it towards us in the same way?
And I've lost a lot of friends to suicide, honestly, and I don't know that they were thinking about things in this way, or that they perceived the energies or these notions in this way, because some were a few years ago and stuff. But I have, because I've even prevented a couple suicides in my life, also, one being my brother, one being an ex-girlfriend. I've come full circle on the idea of, like, stopping someone from doing that, or, like, what it means for people to do that stuff. Because I know I love life here for myself, but I can see how maybe some souls, where our world would define, like, they were this, like, depressed, sad, other mental health notions that have arisen, when people get lost in that sense of wanting to go home, because our Babylonian money magic system has been making it difficult to manifest that home here for everybody.
Yes.
And we can go create these homes out here that we can go to and not long for, but we, both of us, we know, and many more know, that it's through gnosis. It's through the proper steps. You don't just shoot your big metal penis into the sky like you're gonna rape it, like we did to all the daughters of men.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
when we. It's kind of like, I have been putting that out. I'm sure you've seen the ad, but breaking that shackle. It's the shackle. It's what that condition is. The money, like you're saying, the Babylonian money system, and a lot of people are just very much tied with it still, because we allow it to be this way instead of When do we start
That's
calling
a
it
tough
karma?
one. Because as we start to speak on we allow it, this is where even our brightest minds, especially the men's minds, they're like, oh, well, what am I going to do to not allow it? And that's the danger that is present still, and that's why the divine feminine rising has been so important,
Yes.
because we saw it a couple of years back with that storm into the Capitol, and it ended up, being decently moderated the way everything's been manifesting. Oh my goodness, we just had that news on the Georgia Guidestones, right? What a weird amount of stimuli to always
Yes.
receive.
I did read.
But
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I see the steps in motion, and
I
it's tough to
believe
be
it's.
patient sometimes.
I believe to take it down, it is asking the right questions, and it is. It's not to take it down like people are talking this destructive mode. It's actually just let's. Not only do we take it down in a destructive way by asking those questions, asking why is it still here, but also presenting answers and solutions. Like, okay, well, we can have an off-grid community, and that would, instead of worrying about the money aspect of it, if we have an off-grid community where it's self-sustainable, we don't require the governmental funding money. We have energy workers that we don't require a medical system if we keep upgrading our energy work and on ridding ourselves of shadow and dis-ease. Then why do we
And
require
technically,
medical?
I mean, right. That's what I've been saying about, I've seen the learned men with their medical industries, and yeah, you get what you wish for. If you would like to conject that God is conspiring against you in life, you might get an injection, you might get these other things, you might, and if you're not going to accept the spirit as it's such a tough
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
I've dealt, I can't act like I'm completely above it at all times, because obviously, you feel pain, you feel sick as a human. It's easy, even as a sensitive as you get, you're like, oh goodness, what is this? But it's about keeping that faith and putting on your armor.
Yeah.
You don't need you don't need a needle or a scalpel any more than you need a gun or a phone screen per se. That's how connected we truly are.
Yes.
We've been gifted all these tools and things, and that's the thing. I feel a lot of us are like, okay, have we run our gamut? Have we run the course? Like a lot of us,
And
how,
I think
I don't
that's
want
where the, like you were talking about, have we won the gamut? And that's where I believe that's where that suicidal tendency comes in, because where it's like, why are we still in this? It's not. And
right.
how many of us are kind of like, again, when we're trying to do, and I say trying, a lot of us are trying to do businesses alone. Some of us have done businesses together, and it's still in that money system. And then there's the people that are truly doing it, and they're kind of in a loner's phase because we get bogged down in it. Like, okay, the system's still up, and I'm not able to just break that one wall down to be like, okay, let's go. So it gets mundane. It kind of does harken a
But
person's
but
soul.
there's a reason for that, because we saw back in World War II, this is a certain protocol that I know the universe has put in place, and it's the prevention of future Hitlers, if you will. Because what we've seen the trickle down from methamphetamine, the combination of science and esoteric technologies, from events that happened above Washington D.C. to when they went down to the South Pole and the ships were flying out of the ocean. There's so much. What is it? Blue Book and Paper Clip, High Jump.
Oh yeah,
There,
Project.
whatever,
Yeah.
whatever, whatever those names were. It's pretty apparent about, and we've even tried, and we've seen a lot of people rise and stuff, and a lot of crazy things occur since then. But it's pretty apparent that, like, even a virus has probably manifest as the most despotic and terrible thing to find us. And that's the interesting thing, is because there's an extracellular knowledge that has been occurring throughout the entire span of the cosmos. Even Isaac Asimov was talking about it, Carl Sagan. So this extracellular knowledge, extrasomatic knowledge, is knowledge that occurs outside of an individual cell. And we've manifested this into so many forms. The screen is a great example. These libraries that we hold them in our heads, but they also exist in so many forms now for anybody who
Yes.
doesn't quite get. Now, a virus has manifest and diseases more potent than a Hitler, more potent than an atom bomb, CERN, solar activity. I mean, we were talking about electrical disruptions, but it's pretty interesting what the light's capable of, what divine will is. We would expect this big thing, and
well, and then if we're all in this, again, some of us, and I say some of us aren't in the same observable spaces. We're in this different, we're actually in different quantum observable spaces. We're sharing it right now, our space, because we're talking together here through this computer. But people are, if they're staying, this is where I've talked about, is if they're staying in those paradigms where CERN is going to destroy you, do not have enough faith in God to know that he has you. To
look,
know that.
It's lagging on us now.
What?
It's lagging on me. The audio is.
Can you hear me?
Isn't that funny?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I think I can.
Okay, I was talking about all of us are not in the same quantum of observable spaces. If some of us choose to stay in a timeline where they believe that CERN is going to destroy them, or the government is going to destroy them, how much of that, again, do you not have faith in God? I mean, that is you putting your faith in the people that are creating these scenarios, as opposed to going, you know what, the light wins. By that belief alone and that coming through you, it actually moves you out of that timeline, out of that nuclear bomb going off somewhere. And that's where we're in. I don't think a lot of people understand this. It's the Mandela effect, or the multiversal effect that we're in. People are seeing it play out in certain spaces. Certain events happen.
I'm watching it right now. Literally, it's lagging as you're talking about it. It hasn't been lagging the whole time.
I'm sure it's recorded. You'll hear it on the recording.
That'd be great. I love. There's always a little bit of magic. You know, it's so funny. I love it.
Well,
it's great.
I'll leave it to the recording then, because I think my end was lagging a little bit. So we'll wrap this one up, and I do hope that you come back and talk. I love talking about this with you and what you see in your space. So
of course, hey,
yes,
yeah, we'll see where it all connects again next time.
Yes, and I thank you for having
on our neural pathways. Here. Yeah.
Anything you want to say?
Thank you, and amen, sister. Everybody, I just want to thank Rose for hosting me. She is a wonderful host.
Thank you.
Just again, get out there and connect. Be that love and light. I know y'all enjoy your lives out there.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.